Most restaurant owners think they need more customers in order to increase sales, but that's actually the slowest way to grow. The fastest way? It comes down to just 5 things that most restaurants completely ignore. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what they are and how to use them to increase sales immediately. If you don't know me, my name is Chip Klose. I'm the founder and CEO of Restaurant Strategy. I help independent restaurant owners increase the profitability of their restaurants. We put out new videos here every single week. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to go down, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you'll be notified anytime new videos come out. See, when we talk about growing covers, right, getting more people in the front door, that's a marketing problem. And while that certainly will help you grow top line revenue, it's actually not the fastest, because I'm guessing plenty of you out there, and I know this from experience, I'm guessing that plenty of you out there actually aren't maximizing the covers that you actually have. So instead of just focusing on getting more butts in seats, let's make sure we're getting as much out of the butts that you currently have in your seats. And that comes down to operations, comes down to sales. How do you get your servers, bartenders, and yes, your managers on board with growing revenue, making sure that each individual customer spends as much as possible? And here's the good news, right? Sales is our version of serving. The way we show people the best possible time is by getting them the great stuff that we have. If you work at a crappy restaurant, if you run a crappy restaurant, if you own a crappy restaurant, then shame on you. Let's assume that your restaurant is great. You serve great food, great beverages, right? And the whole point is to get people things that they're going to enjoy. The way we do that, the way we take care of people, is really through sales. So I promised you 5 ways, 5 easy ways, low-hanging fruit that you can implement this week to start making an impact in top-line revenue. And I promise you, when you put all these together, you can grow top-line revenue by as much as 15 to 20% over the course of this year without getting a single new diner in your front doors. You ready? Number 1. Getting drinks on first approach. So one of the first things that I say, and it's counterintuitive, I tell people, I tell restaurant owners everywhere, I tell operators when I go in and give trainings, I say, how do we greet the table? And they say, okay, well, our servers grab the menus and they come over and they say hello, they welcome, and they tell their name. And I said, you're already done. You've already lost. The first thing you want a new diner to consider, to think about, in fact, the only decision you want them to make is, what am I drinking? If we give them menus, they're already starting to think about what they're going to eat. And so you say, can I get you something from the bar? And inevitably, they're going to say, yeah, I'm not sure yet. Let me figure out what I'm eating first. And that is a lost opportunity. You totally miss that entire round of beverages. So if the first thing you want them to do is consider what they want to drink, maybe have a drink, a glass of champagne or a beer or a cocktail while they're looking over the menu, then only present them with that option. So the key on first approach is to get a drink order on first approach. The best way to do that is to not greet or seat a new table with menus, right? So don't have the hostess seat them. Do not have the waiter approach the table with menus. Instead, and here's the best way to do it, you have the hostess bring the wine list and maybe a cocktail menu. And so they say, here's your table. They help people in. They say, I'm going to leave the wine list here. These are our wines by the glass, our cocktails, and our beers. Take a look through. Your server will be right with you to get your drink order. Right? So we're queuing them up. The very next thing, or the first thing I need you to worry about, is just, what do you want to drink? So then the server comes over, and hey, I'm the server, and I come over and I say, hi, my name's Chip. Welcome. Have you been here before? Perfect. Wonderful. Great. I'm going to bring menus over in just a couple of minutes, but I'd love to get you started off with something from the bar. What would you like to drink, right? And so here's how that works, right? That the hostess has only presented them with the information to make that first decision. And then really the first thing I do as a server is I welcome them. I introduce myself, whether you say your name or not. Some upscale places don't like you to tell your name. I don't care about that. But mostly you're welcoming them, putting them at ease, making sure they know I'm the one in charge. I'm the one who's going to be responsible for you tonight. I'm letting them know I didn't forget menus. I'm going to be over with menus in just a minute, but I'd first love to get you started with something from the bar. What would you like? And here's the trick, and I learned this way back when, my very first job ever waiting tables in New York City. I worked with a woman, and she was training me, and she said, I look for the thirstiest person at the table. Because if you just pick the young lady or the older woman, right? They're like, well, I'm not sure. And they're going to shirk their responsibility. So you look for the thirstiest person at the table. It could be a man, could be a woman, old, young, it doesn't matter. They will make themselves known. It's someone who is itching to place an order for a drink. And you say something to the effect of, "Sir, it looks like you know what you want. What can I get you from the bar?" Right? And what happens is that when they place the order, others will fall on top of this, right? So, "Oh, I'll just do an old fashioned." Perfect. Would anyone else care for an old fashioned, right? Or somebody says, "Oh, I'll just take a glass of champagne." That's a great way to start. Can I interest in anyone else in a glass of champagne, right? That's how the dominoes start falling. And then you get people say, "Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great." And then when there's one or two people left, you say, "What about you?" I'm telling you, most of them will succumb to peer pressure and they'll say, "Yeah, champagne's fine. I'll take a glass of champagne." On the rare occasion that they say, "No, you know what, I'm gonna hold off for now." Fine. Great. You've done everything you can to make sure to get a drink order. The number one way you can increase the revenue in your restaurant is by not seating or greeting with menus. Instead, just present them with the information they need to make that first decision, which is what do they want to drink. And then on first approach, it is about welcoming them. It is about introducing yourself. Of course, it is to make sure that they know you're in charge, but mostly it's to get that first drink order. That's the number one way, the first way that you can make a really big impact in top line revenue in your restaurant. The second one is focusing on second beverage sales. Now, these go hand in hand, obviously. The best way to get a second beverage on the table is to get the first beverage on the table quickly. So that's why we try to get that first beverage order quickly. We get their drinks while they're looking at the menu. They're sipping on that while they're considering. We take the order, and then people will be done or nearly done. And then we can say, would anyone like another round of cocktails, or were we ready to switch to wine? Did you want to look through the wine list? Can I make some recommendations? Right? There's all kinds of ways to do that. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to getting a second beverage sale, best way to do it is to focus on table maintenance, that we do not let glasses go dead. So if a drink is almost done or totally done, we're removing it from the table, and we always offer another drink. Now, here's the deal. The best way to focus on this, right? Table maintenance, but two ideas that I want you to keep in mind: timing and framing, right? Timing meaning when you ask matters quite a great deal. There was a study done years and years and years ago that was dealing with bottles of wine. So I'll tell you about how they used it for bottles of wine, but I promise you it works for beer, cocktails, wines by the glass. The study basically said is that like 3 out of 5 tables, right, said no if you offered another bottle of wine after the entrees had already hit the table, and 4 out of 5 tables said yes if you offered another bottle of wine before entrees hit the table. So a really great server is in control of their station, is in control of the firing of their entrees. So I would be very well aware of where they are in their drinks, because if the entrees already hit the table and I come over and say, "Great, does everyone have everything they need? Perfect. What can I get you to drink? Another glass of wine?" They're like, "Oh." They're already thinking like, my meal's almost done. I got to get behind the wheel of a car. I'm gonna leave soon. I don't need something else to drink. On the other hand, if the table's empty and they're waiting for their main course, and you come over and you say, "Great, just so you know, main courses will be out in just a minute. I'd love to get someone who needed another glass of wine or a cocktail. What can I get you to drink to go with the main course?" Right? What can I get you to go with the main course? As it turns out, timing matters a great deal on whether or not you get that second beverage. The other one is framing. We don't ask yes or no questions. We ask this or that questions. So instead of going over and say, "Sir, it looks like you're finished. Can I get you another?" That's a yes or no question. 50-50. It's a coin flip whether they get another drink or they don't. We're giving them too much leeway to opt out of the sale. Instead, ask a this or that question. "Sir, I see you're finished with your glass of white wine. Did you want to switch to red wine with the main course? Or did you want to stick with white?" Right? "I see you're finished with your white. Did you want another glass of white or did you want to move to red?" Right? "I see we finished the bottle of Sancerre. Did we want to move to something heavier with the main course?" "Sir, I see you're finished with the old fashioned. Did you want another old fashioned or did you want to try that Manhattan you had your eye on?" We always offer it as a this or that. Now, of course, they can opt out and they say, "No, I'm fine. I don't need anything else to drink." Great. But they have to go out of their way. That wasn't one of the options that I gave them. So when it comes to increasing check average, increasing revenue in your restaurant, second fastest way is to focus on second beverages. So now, Number one way is to get those first beverages on the table quickly. That's what first approach is all about. The second way to grow top line revenue quickly is to focus on second beverage sales. Remember timing and framing. The third way is when you're taking the order, think about getting extras on the check. Again, I was trained by a woman way back when, over 20 years ago, in my very first restaurant where I was waiting tables in New York City. And she pulled me aside and she says, watch what I do here. What I try to do is get an extra on every single table. What she meant was an extra app for the table or an extra entree on the table. And the way she explained it, she said, I'm going to assume this is a nice restaurant. Everyone's getting an appetizer and an entree. So then my job is to get something on the check that they didn't anticipate. And she was so good at this. So what would happen is that everybody would order, and she's great. I got everyone's order real quick. It looks like no one got the risotto. If I can make a quick recommendation, the risotto is something we're famous for. It's one of my favorite dishes on the menu. Nobody ordered it. But I always recommend putting that in the center of the table. This way, I mean, it's rich, it's pretty heavy, but this way everyone can just have a couple of spoonfuls so you get to taste it, but you're not bogged down by like a really heavy risotto dish. Should I throw one of those in the center? That's what she did almost every single time. Or bonus points, the 401 content, right? That's the 101. 401 is she would apply that this or that thinking. She would say after she got everyone's order, great, really quickly, it looks like no one got the whatever, right? And also no one got the risotto. I might recommend putting one or maybe both of those in the center of the table, just so everyone can have a taste, right? What do we think? Do we want to do one or the other or both? Again, that this or that selling. And she would do that. Sometimes she would pick an appetizer. Sometimes she'd try and get an extra entree for the table. At the very least, she would try to get a couple side dishes for the table. She was getting something on the table that they hadn't ordered, that they hadn't anticipated. I don't think most people think of ordering an extra entree to put in the center of the table so that everyone can take a taste. It was a brilliant way to increase check average. And she had consistently the highest check average at that restaurant of the 75, 80 servers on staff. It was a massive restaurant. That's the third one. Number 4 has to do with dessert. Now, dessert, I know a lot of people will tell you, don't sell desserts, just try and turn the table. I think it's wrong. I think you can maximize desserts at your table. I don't care about getting a $12 slice of cheesecake on the table for a 4-top. What I care about is getting that piece of cake on the table so that I can get coffees and cappuccinos and espressos and scotch and port. So the chocolate cake is really the vehicle for after dinner drinks. So I don't care about the $12 cake. In fact, I would pay for it out of my own money to get it on the center of the table, right? And I would even go and say, hey, so my treat to you guys, I sent out our famous chocolate cake. It's on the way. Can I offer anyone coffee, cappuccino, espresso, scotch, bourbon, after dinner drink? And again, you look for the thirstiest person, right? Miss, what would you like? And then they all order. So the $12 dessert is really a vehicle for a $20 scotch, a $15 port, a $7 cappuccino. And if we get a cappuccino, a scotch, and a port, you do the math. That's an extra $40, sometimes $50 on the check, in addition to the one dessert. So think of the dessert as the vehicle for after dinner drinks. It is the thing that's keeping them anchored there for another 20 minutes. And if you do it right, you can do this, I call it the turnaround from when you clear entrees to when you get the dessert order. Instead of clearing them, coming back, crumbing them, then coming back with dessert menus, telling them about the special, walking away, coming back, it's too much time. They're starting to itch. They want to get up. They're full. They're getting fuller the more they digest. So instead, go over, and again, I learned this from another server who trained me early on in my career. He went over and he said, hey, listen, I really try not to drop dessert menus. It takes up too much time. So when I go over, I say, has everyone finished here? May I clear these dishes out of your way, meaning the entrees? And then as he was clearing the entrees, he would say, great. So I'm not sure if you've considered dessert, but we're famous for 2 of them. Even if you don't want a lot of dessert, you should probably get 1 or both of those just for the center of the table. It's a little something sweet to finish the meal. It's such a great way. And again, we're sort of famous for them. It's this dessert, blah, 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 blah. And then it's this dessert, blah, 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 blah. What do you guys think? All of that's happening while he was clearing the entrees. And by the time he's standing there with a handful of dishes, they say, oh, they sound great. Yeah, just send 1 of each of those. Say, perfect. Let me get started on that. I'll be right back to get your coffee order or any after dinner drinks, bourbon, scotch, things like that. was a no-brainer. So then you go, you jump the dishes off, you come back, you bring maybe the scotch list or the after dinner drink list, and you take the dessert order. Say, great, the kitchen's working on the dessert, which P.S. they're not. I haven't put it in yet. And this guy taught me not to put it in yet, because the last thing you need is for the dessert to come flying out of the kitchen, hit the table, they're already starting to eat it, and then they're going to say no to all the others. I don't care about selling the dessert. Again, the dessert is the vehicle for other beverage sales. So dessert represents an incredible opportunity. Think about it, right? If you get a dessert, let's say $12, plus 2 coffees, let's say they're $5 each, that's 10, right? So that's $22 on the check, plus 2 scotches, let's say they're each 15, so $30, right? You do the math, that's $50, 50 plus dollars on the check. So for a 4-top, that's over what, $10, $12 per person that you've increased the PPA, the per person average. I promise you that at scale, every single table, when every single server is doing it, will grow your top line revenue in a really meaningful way. So again, let's recap the first 4. Number 1 is to focus on first beverages, right? First approach is really about getting a drink order. Do not greet or seat with menus. Number 2 is second beverages. Focus on table maintenance. Remember timing and framing. The third one is to try and get an extra on the table when you take the order, an extra app, an extra entree, something for the center. Number 4 is that turnaround from entrees to dessert. We want to get dessert order because it's a vehicle for all of the beverages that can be quite expensive. And the last one, the last beat of the meal, always have something in your back pocket to sell. So when you clear desserts and you say, great, is there anything else we can get for you? And they say, no, we'll just take the check. Perfect, really quick. And you should have something else to sell in that moment, right? No, we're ready for the check. Perfect. Let me go put that check together really quick. Figure out something to sell. For me, it's either merchandise and or gift cards. Don't try to sell them both. Pick one or the other, right? So they say, great, we'll take the check. Perfect, real quick. We run this special for gift cards, right? For every gift card you buy, you get X, Y, and Z, right? You don't have to do that just for holiday time. You can do that all the time, but don't just sell them on your website. Don't just sell them via email. Sell them at the table, every single table, right before they pay, and just say, great, I can just add that right to I'll bring that to you, and I'll add the gift card right to your check. Here's the beauty part. You're never going to say this to your servers, but they're going to discover this. Most people end up tipping on that amount, right? So they get a $100 gift card. I promise you, most of them will end up tipping on that. Not always. You can't promise the servers that, but get them focused on this. They'll start seeing it. The more they start seeing, it's like, oh man, it was a $400 check. I got an extra $100 on the check. They don't tip me $80. They tip me $100. It's extra $20 every time I get a gift card on the check. It's great. Or if you've got merchandise, so hats, shirts, totes, whatever it is, say that on the last beat. Is there anything else I can get for you? No, we're ready for the check. Perfect. Real quick, we've got these, we're sort of famous for our merchandise. We've got these really cool hats and shirts and totes. Do you guys want one or the other or all of them? Let me know what you need, right? And they're on the wall. They're in a display case, or you bring them by and say, how many do you want? Great. We'll add them to the check. So you get a couple of hats at $30 a piece onto the check. Again, oftentimes people will tip on that, and you've just increased your check by $70. If you get two $35 hats, 2 hats and a keychain or whatever, you get my point. That's the last opportunity. Always have something left to order. Now, I worked in fine dining, worked in upscale places. Oftentimes we would have like high-end boxes of chocolates to sell that we made in-house, or we would have cookbooks to sell. So if you're a more casual place, hats, totes, shirts. If you're more upscale, nice chocolates, nice, like spice rubs or oils or a cookbook, all of that you can sell, or at the very least, I'm sure you've got gift cards. Just offer to sell them gift cards. That's it. The 5 best ways, easiest ways, the fastest ways to increase revenue. You do all of those together, you're going to increase top line revenue this year by 15 or 20%. Listen, if you haven't watched any of the other videos, please go watch the videos. Specifically, we did a video called 10 Psychological Tricks to Design a Restaurant Menu that Sells Like Crazy. In a lot of ways, it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about here today, right? Because your servers play a huge role. We're talking today about how to leverage your servers. Your menu also plays a huge role in the kind of revenue that you are able to generate. At the end of the day, I'll say this, right? I say this almost every video we put out. If you want help implementing any of this into your restaurant, it's what we do. Check out the P3 Mastermind. It's our signature coaching program as part of my company. We've been running it now for over 5 years. We've put hundreds of people through the program. We've got over 120 people currently enrolled in the program. Bottom line is the program works. We will show you exactly how to build these systems, how to implement these systems so that you can get more customers, so that you can increase your sales, so that you can properly manage your expenses, so you can hit 20% profits and beyond. All of that so you make more money, free up your time, and find a way to grow your restaurant brand. Because once you have a $2 million restaurant that generates 20% net profit, well, why not have 5 of those, 6 of those, 8 of those, 10 of those? I think you're going to find that you can find more information down below about the P3 Mastermind. So click on that, go learn more about it, set up a call. That's it. Again, I appreciate you guys being here. I will see you on the next one.